Napping.
Okay, it's 5 o'clock. I'll call to order the Village Board of Oregon for Monday, February 16th, 2026. I would ask the clerk to call the roll, please.
Higgins.
Here.
Kirchdorfer.
Here.
Knipfer.
Here.
Marks.
Here.
McDaniel. Here. Peterson.
Here.
And Van Campen.
Here, thank you. Item 3, approval of February 2nd, 2026 Village Board meeting minutes. Tim and Tom. Questions, corrections?
Tim and Tom.
That's correct. Hearing none. We have a motion by Higgins, second by Kirchhoffers. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 4, public appearances, comments, and communications. Items for discussion and/or possible action. A, public comment. This part of the agenda allows members of the public to provide information to the village board, including items both on and off the agenda. Under the open meetings law, this agenda item allows the board to receive information and ask questions of a presenter. Board members may discuss procedural matters relating to the information, such as whether the information should be directed to staff, referred to a committee, or placed on a board agenda. Board members may not expand their discussion beyond such procedural matters. 15 minutes will be provided for this item with a 3-minute maximum per speaker. Anyone here? Oh, we have one registered. Tom Bjorkston. Yeah, come on up, Tom.
Gee, this is quick.
Yeah. 3 minutes, Tom. If you could state your name and address.
My name is Tom Bjornson. I live at 153 Johnson Street, where I've lived my whole life.
All right.
I think that we need to get rid of the burn ban.
Hold up, Mike. There you go. Thanks. Thank you.
I think that we need to get rid of the burn ban because they always used to burn years ago. Everybody had a burn barrel until maybe 1966 or so. And I burned in my garden all the time until they made a burn ban about maybe 5 years ago. I've never had any problems. I believe in having small fires and maybe lots of them, maybe once a week, and I've never had a problem. I've always kept hoses and pails and a shovel out there. I have had a problem with a neighbor. I think that things ought to be done in the future if they do it a little different than how they did in the past. I think that people should be able to burn during the week to avoid neighbors that are working. If a person starts in the morning, then it will all be done with the small fires and done and gone by the time the afternoon comes. Oh, I've been having problems for the past 20 years with my neighbor Mike Braun and his lawnmower shed. And I came to complain about it to Mike Tracy, and he called the cop on me. Anyway, my neighbor, he has got a window in his lawnmower shed where he had a mannequin of a woman looking out.
Okay, Tom. It says here that you're going to speak against the burn ban. I'd like you to keep your comments to that
Okay.
topic.
So I don't think that I'm the reason for the burn ban because I never did anything dangerous. And I've always responsibly burned small fires and lots of them. So I guess that's it. I don't see a reason for having a burn ban, except sometimes it can get really dry like in the summer of '88. And especially like in the fall, especially good to burn when you have spurgus so that it's all black and it attracts the heat so it grows better. And if a person wants to burn out a stump of a small tree, things like that. And also with cutting stuff to take it someplace else, it distributes seeds that otherwise would be destroyed, and ashes are good for a garden.
Okay.
I guess that's enough said. But
Okay.
you'll have to think things over. I'm not expecting an immediate answer.
Okay. I appreciate your comments. Thanks for coming in.
Yeah, it's good to see everybody again. I see a few new faces from last time.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else for public comments? No? Okay. Thank you. Moving on. Item 5, approval of vouchers in the amount of $1,762,507.24. Staff recommendation, motion to approve. Paige and Rick. Questions or comments? Rick, please.
Yeah, I noticed on the list this month were several periodicals subscriptions, and I'm just curious if that is something that the village is providing somehow, or if that is for the library. Just know it's not a large amount of money, but somebody knew where the,
Are you talking about the O'Rourke?
Newspaper like.
Yeah.
I think there was a Wall Street Journal.
Oh,
There-
okay.
I'll take that question. So there are a couple periodicals and newspapers that the library subscribes to that you see on the bills here today. It's the USA Today, the Milwaukee Journal, the Wall Street Journal, and then there's a subscription for the Sports Illustrated magazine. So those are subscriptions the library gets. They're available in the reading room for any member of the public to come in and use those subscriptions. We have a number of community members who don't subscribe to the newspaper and are able to access that information by reading it at the library.
Thank
that
you
answer
for
your
that
question?
explanation.
Thank you. Anybody else? Tom?
Just, as always, when I ever see a large amount, I go through and look to see what the large numbers are, and it was really mostly the fire district fund operations cost transfer. But I did have one question on page 19 of the packet. It's 14,580, and it's the Arway GHRV service. There's 4 charges, and I guess it looks like one is for snow removal at the police department, and one is Village Hall. I was just wondering, are the other two the seniors? I couldn't tell which ones were which.
So the one that is for Fund 203, that's the library, so that's the bottom one. The middle one is the Village Hall, and then that's the senior center, the second one down, and then the top one is the PD.
Okay, and that's services that we've contracted out for
For snow
shoveling and-
removal, yeah, and
Okay.
they do the sidewalks here at Village Hall, and
Okay.
I think they do them at the police department too, and the senior center. And I'm not sure how much do they do more than sidewalks at the library?
They do all the sidewalks and emergency exits at the library as well.
It's just sidewalks, not the parking lot or any of that. It's,
The Public Works crew does the parking lots.
okay, all right, thank you.
Tim?
I was just curious why so many people overpay their property taxes.
A lot of times what happens is the payments are coming from their mortgage companies. So whatever they escrow, a lot of the mortgage companies disperses the whole amount. And sometimes there's an overage created by that.
Okay.
And sometimes residents will pay, they contact us and wanted to know if their mortgage company had paid yet, and they hadn't. And they wanted it paid before like the end of the year or by a certain time frame, and the mortgage company is usually a little bit later, so then we always reimburse the resident then.
All right, thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, we have a motion by Knipper, second by Marxis, a roll call vote.
Sorry. I'm trying to do too many things here.
Sorry.
All right. Higgins?
Yes.
Peterson?
Yes.
Marks?
Yes.
McDaniel? Yes. Van Campen?
Yes,
Kirchdorfer?
Yes.
And Knipfer?
Yes.
thank you. Item 6, consent agenda, staff recommendation, motion to approve the consent agenda items as presented. That's items 6A through 6H. Motion by Peterson, second by Higgins. Questions on these items? Start with Rick.
Change order number 2 for the new well. I was just looking at the cost there, and I know we've just been going through a rate case and trying to make sure that every cost that we go through the water utility is very carefully considered. We certainly don't want to have to do any more rate cases than necessary. I think some of this does get reimbursed from what I'm reading, but I'm not quite clear on everything. I was wondering if you could kind of go through those costs and why there was a change order?
Certainly. So to answer your last question first, the reimbursement, and this is kind of a complicated situation, so I apologize. Tried to write it, but I'll try to explain it verbally too because it's a bit obscure. So under the developers agreement for the Highlands of Netherwood Phase 4, the developer is responsible for installing all infrastructure needed to serve Phase 4 of their development. And that includes Peterson Trail all the way up to and past the Well 6 site. Now, part of this infrastructure is a 12-inch water main. And in this area, the road has to be double mained due to a need to serve both higher houses on a high pressure line as well as to connect the new well to our primary pressure zone. So we asked FDG to include the 12-inch lower pressure line in their design, even though it was not going to serve properties within that stretch, that phase of the development. And as such, because it was mainly to connect the well and serve everybody in the village agreed to take on a financial responsibility for just that 12-inch chunk of water main there. So that's the only part that the village is going to contribute to within Phase 4. And I think it's about a 90-10 split that we based on the number of lots versus in the Highlands neighborhood versus the number of customers throughout the village. Per the original plan, all of that was supposed to be installed last year, essentially. So Phase 4 of Highlands of Netherwood was supposed to be in place, and when we went to construct Well 6, we would very easily be able to connect to this 12-inch line, and we would have a well that was immediately online. We received notification last year from the Highlands developer that they were unable to finish Phase 4, so they did part of Phase 4, the Denmark Circle portion. They did not complete the stretch on Peterson Trail, which included that 12-inch main. And so, given our project schedule and our need to hook up, we reached out to the developer and said, hey, we can probably hook things up, not via the 12-inch main, but via a smaller 8-inch main. This is work that you would have had to do. You would have been required to do this under the developer's agreement. This was in your plan set. This is cheaper than running that 12-inch main all the way up. We will take this on. We will have our contractor do this now. And in return, we will deduct the actual cost of that work from the amount that we owe you under that previously agreed development agreement. And the Highlands developer said, yeah, that works for us. That helps us out. It gives us a little bit more time to come back and do that second phase of Phase 4 versus trying to squeeze it in at the end of 2025. We did negotiate with them to send their engineer out since they had all of the design for this portion. And part of what we had to have our engineer install is a manhole, a sewer manhole. So we kind of had to make that water connection, and we also had to put the sewer lateral somewhere so that at least we had something for our guys to kind of suck out of in case they needed to waste water in commissioning. So we had the developer's engineer went out and staked everything, and unfortunately they staked the manhole incorrectly. And so then we had to have our contractor go back out and raise that manhole. So of course there was a cost associated with that. And we did reach out again to the developer and told them, hey, this was on your guys' engineer. This is a cost that you guys have to cover. But because we needed it done to get our project done, we went ahead and told our contractor, hey guys, we will deduct this as well from that amount. We will take care of it. Please go ahead and do the work so that our well works. So at the end of this whole saga, a very large chunk of this this change order, I think it was 70% of the overall cost, is actually going to be not reimbursed by the developer, but it's going to be deducted from an amount that we already agreed to pay. So I think that our contractual responsibility now goes down substantially under that developer's agreement. So it will not be a cost that we then have to pay this year that we had otherwise negotiated out. So the other components of this change order are pretty small stuff, making sure that our meters are in line with meters throughout the rest of the system, doing some work to accommodate alliance requests that they came with. And overall, this represents a pretty small fraction of the overall project, and we are pretty close to completion. So we're fairly happy with how this one shook out.
Thank you for the explanation, and I do see that you're purchasing a meter that is similar to the other meters in the system, which I completely agree with, that you want to have these things standardized so that the testing and accuracy of them are as confident as you can have. So, thank you.
Tom, I think you were next.
Just a curiosity type of thing on the H, on the underground electric and communication easement. I thought this was a pretty settled area. We've had quite a bit of discussion about mowing in that area and some of that. And I guess, do we know why they need to go in on the easement on the backs of all these lots? Or is it just that's what they need to do? And I don't know what the project's
Are
about.
you upgrading the service or?
Yeah, they're taking their electric service in this area underground.
Yeah.
So this is gonna be an underground line. It shouldn't affect how we maintain things. That's all it is.
Okay.
Tim?
I had a question about G, the T-Mobile project. Is someone, as part of that project, actually climbing up on the water tower?
Yes.
And have they provided us with a safety plan to prevent a fall?
So Strand is the one, I should ask, are you asking about is T-Mobile going to have staff up there, or is our consultant gonna have staff up there?
I'm sure they're gonna outsource it to somebody so that they can avoid liability like most of the mobile companies do. But that's also how a lot of small operators die because they're not fall protected. And so that's what I'm wondering is there a safety plan in place?
So I'm not sure how T-Mobile does it. I can tell you that most contractors are responsible for providing their own safety plans. I think Larry may have some good insight on kind of the legal side from the village's perspective.
Yeah, that's correct. We don't typically get involved, but we certainly could seek that information and bring it back.
I would favor that just because there have been a lot of stories around the country of small mom and pop operations getting hired to work on cell towers, falling, and a whole family is devastated. And the big cell carriers just like, not our problem. We told them to have a safety plan. But I worked for years in fall protection, in the fall protection industry, and it's required that there's a written safety plan if you're working at height. And so asking them to provide one shouldn't be an additional burden on them.
Yeah, we can certainly request that.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, with motion by Peterson, second by Higgins. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 7, reports of committees. Item for discussion and possible action. A, Library Board. 1, authorize Library Board to use $15,000 in Section 179D tax deduction in-kind services credits with OPN Architects to be applied toward the professional design fees for the proposed Oregon Public Library Solar Array Project. There was a detailed motion, let's get a motion on the table, please. Higgins and Kirstover. Detailed memo about this. Questions for perhaps Jennifer or? No? Seeing none, okay. Motion by Higgins, second by Kirstover. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 7.1B, sustainability. 1, Organics collection and composting subsidy agreement with Greenbox LLC to provide a composting service subsidy for village residents for a total not to exceed $12,000 for the contract term April 1st, 2026 through March 31st, 2027. Committee recommendation, motion to approve. We look for a motion, please. Higgins and Knipper. Lynn, did you want to speak to this, or I know there's a memo in there. Do you have something to add?
Not much. I will just say, Martin and I met with Ben a couple of weeks ago. He has been really happy with the way that our partnership has kind of sustained itself for the last couple of years. So this will be the third year that we would have this partnership. He provided us with some data, which I think is really interesting. So since April 2024, we've had 44 participating households, and I'd probably argue that I bet most of those were for the full 2 years. I don't think we saw a lot of people drop it from year 1 to year 2, and I would expect a lot of those households to keep going. We've diverted over 10,000 pounds of food waste, which as a village I think is a really something we can really be proud of. And that was just last year. Over 16,000 since we launched the program. We're not changing anything on the partnership. It all stays the same. We subsidize a part of this, so it would be a cost of no more than 12,000. We actually haven't hit the 12,000 mark just in a single year, because the 12,000 encompasses 100 signups. So we've been less than that, and so the first time we delegated the 12,000, it actually lasted us 2 years. So this could potentially just last us a year if we get a lot more signups, which we're hoping, or it is something less than that number for this year.
Questions, discussion? Higgins.
I would just comment on one of the 44 households involved, and it's a terrific program. It's really convenient. It's really easy, and I believe I am putting way less garbage in my garbage can every week. So it's good for the environment, and it's easy.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, we have a motion by Higgins, second by Knipper. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Item C, Planning Commission. 1, ordinance number 26-01, an ordinance to amend the Village of Oregon Comprehensive Plan to change the future land use map for 2.76 acres of territory near 751 East Netherwood Street from agricultural to industrial. Commission and staff recommendation, motion to approve. Christopher and Higgins. This we had our short joint meeting with the Planning Commission. I think everybody is on board with at least this element. Any questions on this? Okay, a motion by Christopher, second by Higgins. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Item 2, annexation agreement between Hillcrest Bible Church of Dane County Incorporated and the Village of Oregon regarding 2.76 acres of territory near 751 East Netherwood Street. Staff recommendation, motion to approve. Peterson and Knipper. Questions on this one? Seeing none. All those in favor, motion by Peterson, second by Knipper. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 3, ordinance number 26-02, an ordinance providing for the direct annexation of a portion of the town of Dunn, 2.76 acres near 751 East Netherwood Street to the Village of Oregon. Staff recommendation, motion to approve. Higgins and Kirstover. Questions on this item? Seeing none, motion by Higgins, second by Kirstover. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item 4, resolution number 26-02, a resolution approving a certified survey map combining property known as 752 East Netherwood Street and 2.76 acres of adjacent land into one lot. Commission and staff recommendation, motion to approve as presented. Peterson and Knipper, questions on this item? Seeing none. Motion by Peterson, second by Knipper. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Okay. Park Board. 1, potential community block grant funding opportunity and related park improvement project at 235 North Main Street. Park Board and staff recommendation, motion to direct village staff and village attorney to work with Northport Development and Main Street Townhomes to draft the necessary agreements to allow the $400,000 in CDBG funds to be utilized for the construction of park improvements at 235 North Main Street. I'm sorry. Hold on.
We might have some modifications to the motion, so.
Thanks,
let's have a
okay.
conversation.
So,
I didn't want to interrupt.
that's all right. So updates are coming, oh, Elise,
Yep, I
okay?
can get us started. I can talk now that you just breezed through all my planning commission items, so glad that I still get to say something, otherwise, why am I here? Yeah, we've had a few meetings and just some updates since the packet was published, so just wanted to catch you all up and then decide where we want to take the motion, if at all, from there. So to begin, late January, I know a couple of you attended, but we had a neighborhood meeting at the Oregon Public Library. Invited folks within, I believe, 500 feet of the park parcel. It was about 100 addresses. Only had about 5 people in attendance. A couple of them I know live outside the neighborhood. We're just interested in the opportunity for the park. So cut them up on kind of the history of the park, some of the park, where it stands in our park plan, and where things had been sitting in our CIP, and this opportunity for this grant funding this year, and then continue to just do some very basic feedback on what types of amenities would folks would be interested in the park and things like that. But generally, there was interest and support for further exploring the opportunity, and then update the park board last week, and again, still interested in exploring the opportunity. We've had a couple of meetings with both county. They've been super helpful, as well as North Point. And if you remember, the funds have to flow through North Point in order to qualify for this funding, since the village ourselves don't qualify for this low and moderate income focused funding. Couple of just things that were learned / challenges and things to sort of explore. Timeline here is a big point of concern. All the construction on this park would need to be completed by the end of September. Reimbursements would be able to be wrapped up by the end of December. We currently do not have a park plan in place for this park. It's, as you might remember, fairly recently dedicated as parkland when we did the CSM in late probably 2024 with North Point, and then divided the property and sold the northern portion to them. But it's in our park plan as a pocket park, just says that further planning with stakeholders in the neighborhood needs to happen. So as far as amenities, we haven't really broached that subject, in depth with the neighborhood. So there's not necessarily a plan to just turn to and say, these are the things we want, and let's go out and get some bids and get them built. So that work, typically our park process is a year of planning, and then the next year we build when we do the bidding kind of in the winter in between those years. So if we were to pursue this opportunity, the park planning obviously needs to be accelerated. And we would likely recommend that we hire a landscape architecture firm to actually do, I can do some initial planning, but actually to do the design and then prepare documents to bid, would need to be publicly bid. So that process is obviously, if we pursue this opportunity, would be truncated, and we've learned that those design costs would not be eligible for reimbursement, so those would be costs that the village would be responsible for upfront. There's also just the conversation of, would we want to just sort of plan for this phase of the park, or we want to think about, we have in the CIP right now planning in 2028, and then design and construction in 29. Do we want to kind of plan, design everything, and then just determine what should happen first, what should be phase 1 that gets built this year, and then put it on the shelf for a couple of years and come back to it when we return to it in the CIP? Or do we want to just plan for this smaller phase? So I took a look at some of our past park design projects, Scary Dish Park, for example, and other similar projects. It's usually about 5.5% of the total project cost is what the design and construction document preparation costs end up. So if we were just looking at a $400,000 project, which is about the amount we think is available with these CDBG funds, that'd be about $22,000 plus or minus. So that would be, again, planning for this kind of first phase of the park, or if we're gonna do engagement, do we wanna think bigger? But again, maybe just decide out of all of that what should be built first. And obviously, those design costs would be more expensive if we're looking to design more of the park. Keep in mind, this is a small park. This is about 0.7 acres. So there are limitations on what can actually fit there. The sky isn't really the limit here as far as, fields and other things like that. There other points that we discussed with Sean are just sort of the liability of who takes on the risk of purchasing equipment and then getting reimbursed later. I think North Point is very supportive of the idea, thinks it would be a great benefit to the community, and is willing to be the path through for funding, but understandably don't want to take on the risk of purchasing hundreds of $1,000s worth of equipment and then being out of pocket for a short while the reimbursements would be processed. So Larry and I met with Sean last week and kind of just talked through what that might look like. So that's kind of a separate conversation, but ultimately I guess wanted to hear from the board as far as, are you, one, willing to take on some of this design work ahead of actual, ahead of time? I think that would happen. We need to keep moving. So the county process that needs to happen, if all things move forward, would go through kind of mid-April as far as their agreements they need to do with North Point for the grant agreement. They also need to have a land lease between North Point and the village at some point, probably in the next few weeks here, to continue that process with the county. And in the meantime, I think we would want to start this planning and design of the park as soon as possible. So understanding that, one, that would be out-of-pocket costs. Two, we don't know for sure that everything's approved at the county level until probably mid-April, best case scenario, and fastest timeline there. And then what should we be kind of exploring as far as design of the park? So we want to just kind of understand the level of risk and interest, and is this something, obviously, it's not every day that $400,000, in a grant form drops into your lap, but also there's significant timeline considerations and financial risk. This is not, funds that we had been planning on spending this year in this park, and there are obviously other projects that are on the village docket. So, Larry, did I kind of lay out all of the conversation points that we wanted to
I think so.
cover?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and so really, we're just, Elise just mentioned a lot of things for your consideration, and we would normally have a lot of these things really buttoned up when we come to you, and really because of the timeline, to proceed with this, we can only tell you what we know today because we can't take the time to get the timeline. To me is the challenge. So, by the time, if you have us proceed, by the time we come to you again, we'll probably know a lot more. But we can't do it in our normal pattern in terms of the time we take to do this because we've got that September 30th date hanging out there.
Okay, questions to the board? Okay, now I have questions.
I guess I have.
I'm sorry, go
one
ahead.
Question. You were mentioning that this is a percentage of the total cost. So if we ended up not either getting the funding or getting some limited version of that funding, the overall impact on our budget would be smaller. And I'm assuming too that this is the kind of work that we would be doing for this park in another year if it weren't for the fact that we weren't planning to do it this year. So we'd shelf it potentially, but it would still be valid work.
Yes, for the most part. So currently, 2028 is where the design and planning work, so just a few years out, that's where that sits currently in the CIP. So yes, that would be work, that would, similar to work that would be done at that point. yes, there's a risk too that if at some point, whether it's the county or North Point or the village, decide that to walk away and not take advantage of this opportunity, that we might do that work and then you said just have it sit on the shelf. So there's that risk. The percentage is just sort of a ballpark that I'm giving you all at this point for discussion. We would, request a scope of work from a landscape architecture firm, and there would be for a certain amount, they would do that work, and then, again, regardless of whatever happens with actually building something this year, they would still do that work. So that amount isn't gonna fluctuate. Once we sign that contract, they're gonna do that work for that amount of money. Of course, unless we put some kind of stop to it in the middle, but just for budgeting purposes, I was just pulling out that 5.5% number. So if you understand, if we wanted to spend as little as possible, we could potentially just plan for this initial kind of first phase of the park for a project that would be around $400,000 total. And the related design costs would probably be in that $20,000 to $25,000 range for that scale of park project. I don't remember off the top of my head what we have in the CIP for the park construction. Lauren and Martin, I don't know if you remember because we don't really have a plan, we sort of just have a placeholder number out there until we have a design. We don't really know what that design would potentially cost. So it might not be a whole lot different than that number. It could be something that's a higher design cost if we wanted to do, a more expensive park improvement project down the road. So does that make sense? Okay.
Thank you.
Then,
I was just thinking of this. We talked about this at Park Board, but this question didn't come up in my head. In your expertise, for the size of this lot, a $400,000 improvement plan, does that feel like we could cover a good amount of this park? It feels like a lot of money to me for a very small chunk of land, but then again, I don't really know what park improvements typically run. So I guess based on your evaluation and expertise, do you feel like we could get through a good portion of this park?
Yeah, without knowing exactly what, again, the stakeholders want to see, the next item on the agenda is Gary Dish Park, and I know you're very familiar with what that scope entails, and you can see that project is, in the $750,000 range. So if you think about the scale of that park and all the things that have been planned there, and then the size of this park, I think we could get a lot and a decent, whether it's, a playground and some solid surfacing that's a decent size, walkways, landscaping, that kind of thing. I think we could probably do a lot with that amount. One thing we've also talked about is if we, do the design and bid, we would have that September 30th date or some date, maybe a few weeks before that, really clearly outlined. So this is what we want you to do. Can you do it within that time? And making sure that we had a lot of language about liquidated damages, that if you went past that, obviously, again, that would put, one thing we learned too is the reimbursement can happen on an incremental basis. So that's something we could potentially, if there are costs that are incurred along the way, we don't necessarily have to wait until the last minute to ask for reimbursement. So that could be kind of done as we go. But yeah, I think, we have a lot of recent pricing on other park improvements. So that gives us a sense of, okay, what might this cost? And we're doing a pretty decent sized playground, for example, at Gary Dish Park. So if you think about something that would be maybe even a little bit scaled back, we can kind of guesstimate some numbers, I think, pretty closely. So, yeah, I don't know, did you guys find what's in the CIP right now for 29?
So we have 200,000 in the CIP for this project. In
For the
29.
construction?
Mhm.
Okay.
And I'm not sure what we included in that number. I'm guessing we based it on probably pretty basic setup, based on numbers that are in the park plan, which are, again, also estimates for just generic playground equipment, generic, grading, costs and that sort of thing. So I'm guessing it was just a little bit of a whole number to try to capture a couple of different things that might be able to be included on this parcel.
So this is potentially twice the amount we were planning on investing in the park in 3 years.
Can I ask really quickly, what did we have in the CIP for the planning? Since we have it.
20,000.
20,000, okay.
400,000 does seem like a lot of money to me in terms of whether we actually can spend that amount, but, we talked about a September 30th deadline. Is that a hard number, or is there a possible extension? I know we have some people from the county here.
My understanding is that the construction needs to be complete by September 30th, but invoicing and reimbursement can happen until the end of December.
And then this is a public bid project, is that right?
Correct.
And
Public
typically,
bid plus some additional considerations that we would normally not do on a village project to match the federal requirements.
okay,
So it's sort of public bid plus.
all right. Public, yeah, okay. And so, we have we have to go to an outside vendor to design the park, is that correct?
Correct, and based on the timeline, I would recommend that we would not do an RFP process, but we would just turn to one of the landscape architects
Butler
we've
or
worked with,
somebody,
that has availability and try to hit the ground running.
Yeah. So, and then, of course, we're just bidding time and then the actual construction. I'm just gonna ask you, Elise, do you think you can get it done or not? 'Cause since
Yeah, I mean, I just sketched
probably
out
quail and
if
more-
we,
more than
if we worked on, getting a landscape architect on board and contracting, I mean, that would probably kind of take us through March, April. I would imagine the design outreach process would be maybe April, May. And then bid in June, construction maybe July through September. It's a shorter window than what we typically do, but again, it's a smaller park, and I think we would probably be really conscious of the types of improvements here. I know Laura and I have talked about things like, we don't think adding parking here is really a good solution, just based on the size, the grade. It's a neighborhood pocket park, so it's meant to be really walked or biked to, and serve the folks within the neighborhood. And so those types of things usually take longer to construct. So obviously, we'd want to check along the way about equipment availability, and that'd be something I'm sure with a landscape architect we would be super clear about up front, so they understand. We want to make sure we're not getting something that's super exotic, that's made overseas and is
Right.
going to take a long time to get here. It's going to be, I don't think it's impossible. I think it's going to be really, really tight. I think also just want to make sure the board is aware. We normally take, Gary Dish Park for engagement and things, we've started in probably August or so, and then wrap up in, November, December. Again, bigger park, but typically take more like a 6-month process for planning and design, engagement and things like that. So I think if everybody understands this is gonna be, full steam ahead, have a lot of meetings, and maybe we have, kind of accelerate the timeline a bit there, but wanna make sure we still feel like we're getting a high quality product and good engagement, and I think we can do some, more direct approach in meetings with, for example, different daycares that are walkable to this park, or, school district or other stakeholders that are nearby that'd be using this, and make sure we hear from them, rather than just rely on only having meetings, or surveys or things like that. So some more direct feedback, but, I wanna make sure that the product we would get out, we feel is reflective of what the neighborhood and the community really wants to see.
So if we have a Cadillac park design that comes in at $275,000, do we just, is that what we apply for in the grant, or is that how it works? Or maybe folks might want to come up and,
Yeah. Again, my understanding is that we would just ask for reimbursement, and so we would ask for reimbursement
Whatever.
up to whatever, and I think the exact 400,000-ish dollar amount is still to be determined, because there are other projects going on that are still in the reimbursement phase, but maybe you guys wanna take a stab at answering
if
that
you
too.
could tell us your names and who you're from for the record, thank you.
Yeah, good afternoon. My name is Joanna Cervantes. I am the Housing Access and Affordability Human Services Manager, and I work for Dane County.
Good afternoon. My name is Baltasar Tienda Santana, and I'm the CDBG Home Program Specialist. And I've been involved with this CDBG DR project in Oregon.
Thank you.
So one of the questions that at the table right now is what happens if you don't spend $400,000, right? Your CAP, if I heard correctly, you said you had $200,000. If your bid comes back at $275,000, well, whatever your expenses are, that is what essentially gets reimbursed.
Okay.
how the $400,000 and kind of what Elise is alluding to. So this is really part of that larger project with North Point Development, the construction of the 24 affordable housing units that's right next to the park. When Dane County applied for the funding, we applied for $1.5 million. The state came back and said, no, apply for 997,000, if I'm being accurate here. I mean, just shy of 2 million. And my response was like, I don't know if we have expenses. I don't want to over subsidize a project that we don't have the funding for. And they just said, well, take it, and if you need it, use it, and if you don't, well, then that's money that has to go back to the state. And the state doesn't use that, they have to actually return that back to HUD. And so our goal and hope, when we presented this idea to the village staff, was help us bring this number as closely down as we can to zero. This is money that was entrusted to the state of Wisconsin, in particular here at Dane County, and we want to be able to put it to good use. We want to show HUD, hey, thank you for the money, and we were able to apply as much. If we can get it down to zero, that'd be phenomenal. If we can't, totally understand. We just wanted to present this opportunity that, like Elise said, typically you don't have a $400,000 grant available,
right.
so.
Thank you. Any board members have questions for the folks with us? Amanda, please. Or just a question on Jen?
Just a question, yeah. So can you just outline for me one more time, because I'm trying to wrap my head around all this, what it looks like if we shelve it? Like we plan it, you mentioned an option that we had that would not take advantage of this? Is that what I'm understanding?
So I'm recommending, if you want to move forward with, again, pursuing this opportunity, that we start working on getting a landscape architect on board and start doing that design work as soon as possible. And, I don't know what all the hurdles look like with the county and the approvals. I mean, maybe it's fairly likely that everything, passes just fine. We still have to work on a land lease arrangement with North Point, and probably some kind of other related, kind of development agreement. But at any point in the process, if something falls apart or one party decides we don't want to be party to this, we're going to walk away, that design work is probably already out of the gate. And we might decide, well, we're not going to build something now because that grant isn't going to be here and available this year. But this design work and engagement can already happen. And obviously the CIP planning process is coming up soon. So maybe if that happens, we can kind of take a look at, do we want to try to do this project sooner while this engagement feedback is still more relevant? Or are we okay with this kind of 2028, 2029 timeline staying in place?
Okay, thank you. That's helpful.
Do you have the time to do this, Elise?
I'll make time.
If you don't, say so.
I mean, I think with consultants, on board, that's, I think, going to be the hardest part. And then getting, once things are out to bid and constructed, it's just, it's following, the hard part is essentially done. I think North Point has offered to do a lot of the grant management and reporting. They have a lot of experience with that. They contract with Veer Becker, who we contracted with too for the same type of funding we received for the Habitat project on Kai Court. So they were kind of responsible for all in my opinion, some of the hardest work is all the grant reporting and making sure that everything is, doing the Davis-Bacon fair, wages and all that kind of stuff is being followed. So, we have a lot of experience working with North Point. I think we have a high level of confidence that they are going to make sure that's done well. But yeah, I mean, I'm always busy, but so is everybody else. And this is a opportunity that the village board wants to pursue. We'll make it happen.
Okay. You'd mentioned liability issues, Larry, and maybe you could help me a little bit with that. Is that something that we still need to work out? Is that basically where we are on that?
Yes, and really, I mean, if you think about this from the context of, if we were just doing this with Dane County, they were just giving the village a grant, or if we were just doing it as a village project and there is no grant, there's different layers of involvement of different parties. And the unusual or the less usual one here is that North Point is involved in this as a party. They're actually the recipient of the grant. And so we would have to, as part of this and sort of paralleling some of this initial design work, we would have to work out with them. We've had some initial conversations, heard their concerns and where their sort of touch points are. We would have to work out with them a scenario in which, and there's some creative ways we can probably do this, but we'd have to work out a scenario where really them functioning as the conduit for the funding for the village to receive a park doesn't put them at risk.
Okay.
But at the same time, it doesn't create risk for the village that's beyond what's sort of normally palatable
Right.
for the board. So for instance, I think it's very likely that the village would take on, there's, like we said, there's a number of things that are slightly different than what was in your packet or what you've heard before. In the packet, we talked about North Point really constructing this and kind of handing it off to the village. It's less likely, given now that we've kind of drilled into this, that's the way it would operate. More likely that we'd be handling a lot of that. So therefore, if there's any issues, we're covered with our own liability, and it's not something that's necessarily going to fall back on them. Because and plus we enjoy municipal, partial at least, immunity, and we're certainly not gonna, I would never recommend that you go beyond that and indemnify a third party that it doesn't have that same protection. So there are things like that we'll have to figure out. If you give us the go-ahead to basically just kind of keep going here tonight, that involves, as Elise said, really, the big piece of it, I think, is we're gonna start planning this park, right? That's kind of the known cost. My time, whatever other staff time, will go into that process, but also trying to establish what the relationships between us and North Point and the county will look like. That'll be something we put on a fast track also, to make sure if we find out it doesn't work for North Point, we know as early as possible that that's the case.
Okay.
And so really, today, I think, when I think of this, I think of it as, it's a timing issue. We've talked a lot about that. That's something that we're very cognizant of. There's the cost. There will be a cost to the village. It's just a question of whether a big portion of the final cost of developing this park, whenever you do it, is covered by this grant. It isn't no dollars in at this point for the village, right? We're gonna be covering the design cost and whatever other just sort of costs are associated with setting this up, and then the risk. So I think I'm confident in saying that, I completely agree with what Elise said. If this is still moving by the time we get to the point where we're gonna contract with someone to build and develop these improvements, I think at that point we'll have a pretty high level of confidence that we've set deadlines for them to complete. We've done it. We're gonna present a contract in the RFP that says if you're not done by, the second week, or first week of August, or first week of September, whenever it is, you're not getting paid. And that's not really the way it'll be, but it's gonna be pretty serious, right?
Right.
They're gonna have to understand that this is their priority. So we can build that confidence. But by the time we enter into that, we'll know what the county is, the county will have made its decision about the grant. We'll have engaged to that point with Veerbecker or whoever's going to manage this. So we're very clear on what aspects of this park and this improvements are going to be covered by the grant and which ones aren't. You'll have a very informed decision to make about whether to issue that and let that that contract for that construction. Until that point, there's gonna be a lot of things that are kind of up in the air.
Thank you. Anything, Martin, you have anything to add?
Yeah, I think, I'll probably just be reiterating a few points, but, I think one of the risks here is just the investment of time, energy, and money that we didn't anticipate. And we don't know if that will actually pay off towards getting this grant. Certainly there'll be some work that we can shelve and use in the future if we need to. But as Larry mentioned early on, it's just, this is so out of the normal process and pacing for this. So it's hard for us to really kind of answer questions about really anything at this point, other than the only answer is we can either proceed and learn more, and we may come back in a month or two and say, yeah, this isn't going to work, and we paid $5,000-$10,000 to figure that out, and that's what we're going to have to deal with. Or we may figure out that this can work and we proceed rapidly. So it's possibility of up to $400,000 to support this park. And then the risk side is just, you know, that we spent some time and energy and money that didn't necessarily pay off in full.
Thank you. No, okay. Lynn?
I just want to say, kind of as the board, we start to consider this, I'm incredibly supportive of putting this to the top of Elise's list. And I would defend that, you know, if things have to drop to the side, you know, for a short period of time, because I think that we're talking potentially more than just a park. We're talking about a partnership with a developer. We're talking about a partnership with a county. We're talking about, you know, honoring a gift, a grant of money that, like, frankly, we would love to have more of. Our financial situation is not unique. There are a lot of other municipalities that are struggling with this, and I would really love to put Oregon on the map as an organization that is agile and willing to find ways to prioritize things. I also think we're talking about an area of the village that we have talked about for a long time, our downtown master planning. You know, having a robust park, robust community activity down here, I think is an investment in that area and potentially has larger payoffs than just this lot or this area. And so, you know, I feel very comfortable to be able to make those arguments to anyone who might say, well, wait, my thing's getting put on the back burner because Elise has, you know, been prioritizing this. I'm happy to come to the mat on that because I think that this is something that is more than just a park, and I think that the village board makes a statement by saying something like this.
Okay.
Wholeheartedly agree, and I would add when we toured the townhomes, this was like, I feel like a selling point to those that moved into those townhomes was that park being there. I don't know how many children are living there off the top of my head, but I would imagine if I had just, right, like gone and moved here and looking forward to that park, I would want to see it move quicker too. Like, I hate to put that on you, Elise, but I also think it's a great opportunity for us too.
Amanda?
Yeah, I agree. I think as board members, part of our job is being good stewards of taxpayer dollars. And when we have an opportunity to save hundreds of thousands of dollars in an expense that we would otherwise have to pay for, if we spend $5,000 to $10,000 exploring that, I think that's a good investment because I feel like North Point is a good partner, the county's a good partner, everybody wants to make this work, so I concur.
Okay. Tim?
I would just echo what everybody else is saying. I think it would be a shame to let this grant slip through our fingers. I have a lot of confidence in Elise and Larry and Lauren and Martin and the others that would be involved to make sure that it's managed in a way that is not going to hurt the village. So I would say go forward and use your best judgment, and that would be my vote.
Okay. I see another hand up. Tom?
Just, I guess, as I look at this from a risk perspective, we have a county group that is very interested in having this completed. We have a developer who's interested in having this completed. We have ourselves who are interested. Everybody's motivated to do this. So from a risk perspective, everybody's going to be working really hard to make it happen. So I don't feel the risk. I mean, there is a cost, and we'll recoup that cost eventually, and further down the road in reductions we'll have in the CIP. So I guess I'm not alarmed by the risk factors in relationship to this. So.
Okay, Chair would entertain a motion to approve as presented or otherwise. Higgins and Kirstofer. Further discussion on the item. I would just say that I agree with everything that's been said. I see that there are potential hurdles to get over, but I'm encouraged, Elise and the rest of the staff, if you get to the point where you go, we need to pull the plug, you should come back and say that. I think the board will accept that. Okay. All right, we have a motion by Higgins, second by Kirchhofer. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
guys.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
All right. We are on item 7, D2, consideration and possible action of bid award for Gary Dish Park redevelopment project. Is it okay to get a motion first before we discuss on this one? Okay. All right. Who wants to make a motion to discuss this? And, no. All right, so we have Higgins and Marks. All right. Anybody reporting on this or questions? Who's this?
Is your memo, Rich?
Yeah.
All right, so this was presented to Park Board last week, on February 10th. The Ross Rutler was here and he went over the bids for Gary Dish Park. The lowest, or the apparent low bid was Speedway Sand and Gravel Inc. Base bid $752,709.03, with an alternate for metal shade structures in lieu of fabric structures, as they're considerably more durable, and this was at the behest of Eric Zwaska as well as Nick Hack. The other alternates were not considered in the final price of $758,332. We're coming to you today to recommend the motion to accept the bid for contract A, in addition to the alternate 2 metal shade structure at $758,332.03.
Questions from the board? Anything from staff? Anyone else, like Mark? All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Item 8 is unfinished business. Items are for discussion and or possible action. Item A is selection and hiring process for senior services director position. Staff recommendation, motion to approve is presented. Page motions, Knipfer, I should say. I need a second. Oh, I see Kirchdorfer is the second. Okay. Any questions about this item? Okay. All right, I think this is good, pretty straightforward. Do you have anything?
Nope. Go ahead and vote.
All right, then, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, good, motion passes. No one opposed, right? Okay.
Thank you, Amanda.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, item B, review name and tagline ideation work, product produced by Tyce related to the Oregon Area Senior Center rebranding project. Let's see. Reading from Rachel's memo here, in order to make most efficient use of board meeting time, which the chair always prefers, it would be helpful if board members can each be prepared to identify 2 or 3 names they prefer, along with any taglines they work well with those names. That would provide a good starting point. Let's start there. Anyone wants to begin? Or- Tom?
I'll go first. I got a feeling everybody's gonna pile on, so.
Okay.
I guess my first issue I want to talk about on this is that if we leave senior and community aren't included in the name clearly, the difficulty or the ambiguity of the building would be difficult for people to find. When I've had this discussion at a number of different occasions, I've had individuals share stories, and there's more than one, of going to other communities with senior centers and driving back and forth in front of the building, not being able to find it because it wasn't clearly marked as a community center or a senior center. So with that in mind, I guess in the names that I would suggest, I would go one very, very generic and just call it the Oregon Community and Senior Center. And then we'd still have to come back and think about taglines and so forth. I didn't really come up with one that stood out, especially when I thought of that as that's sort of like on one end of the scale, a
Yeah.
very generic, very, very focused kind of thing. I did like a number of the other ones. I liked the ones that included that ORE in the middle of them. There were a number of those. One that jumped out at me sort of was the Forward one. I recognize there is another entity that uses Forward a little bit, but then we are part of Wisconsin. But so that sort of had some appeal to me. Playing around with it then, not on the list, I came up with for Oregon. So it'd be a stylized F with the word Oregon in capital letters, or some significantly artful way to do that, followed by the Community and Senior Center. So before Oregon Community and Senior Center. I kind of like this because if you abbreviate that for your newsletters or communications, it would be FOCAS Center, the focus. So it's pronounced somewhat like a focus center. You could use taglines, and that I would avoid using taglines that have anything to do with age or senior in relationship to them. And I would kind of lean in, if you went either with the Forward or the Oregon, lean into fitness, friendship, fulfillment, fun, emphasize that F in part of emphasizing that as far as the Oregon. So those are basically comes down to three suggestions: the Oregon Community and Senior Center, the Forward Community and Senior Center, or the Oregon Community and Senior Center. And my preferred one is the Oregon.
Okay.
I can go. So I paid attention to Rachel's memo of health and wellness focused and active. The two that I picked out was ERA of Oregon, and it already had a tagline because ERA is an acronym for Enrichment and Recreation for Active Adults.
Is that Arrow? I'm sorry, is that Arrow or Arrow?
ERA is what I called it, like an era, like a
Yeah.
time.
Thank you.
Yeah. Or, if you're a Taylor Swift fan, ERA.
Who?
Had to. Okay, and then my second, though, was wise moves. I really like the word wise. I like that it has the word move in it. The tagline that really came out to me to go with that was an adult community wellness and resource center. Says exactly what it is. Includes the word resource, community, wellness, adult. So those are my choices. I followed you specifically, Rachel.
You always did your homework.
I did.
Okay. Who's next? I don't want to call on people, but it comes to that.
I'll go next. I liked Forward Center and Restore Center, both using the ORE of Oregon to kind of highlight. And the two taglines that I liked were Inspiring Healthier Days for All, or Wellness for Every Age, Every Stage. And I also kind of came up with my own tagline, which was for seniors and those who hope to join them.
Good luck.
Well, we're done with that part. Okay, Lynn.
I can go next. I have two quick comments. First, I really appreciated the amount of options we had in this second round. It felt like that was really helpful. Even if we don't use them, just it helped spark thoughts, and I felt like this round was much more thought-provoking. Interestingly enough, and this is why making 7 people make a decision is a really tough thing, I did not like the forward option because in Wisconsin, when you hear forward, you think it's FOR word, like not the E in it. And I feel like a lot of people would misspell it and they would Google it wrong and they would wonder why we're the one place in Wisconsin that doesn't have just the regular forward. Also, the literary part of me, forward is the beginning of a book, and I'm like, is this the beginning of something? Again, I'm taking it way too literal, but I struggled with the forward one. But it's interesting to hear the feedback of my other trustees because I think that's why this is such a unique process because you can have a bunch of people look at it and some people take it really differently. So I think all that to say, I wouldn't be opposed to it. It wasn't the reaction that I had. My top pick was the Thrive Active Living Center. I don't know, maybe that was just because it was like at the beginning or something, but I liked the Active Living Center. I think that's encouraging for all ages and lifestyles and things like that. But I also really liked the resource piece of some of these taglines because I think that the senior center does a lot more, the resources are kind of the hidden gem, I think, of the senior center that a lot of people don't really think of. And I think maybe putting a spotlight on that helps people to see that it's more than a walking track or it's more than, meals, that it's really support work for whatever it is you might be struggling with. So I don't really have 2. I only had Thrive Active Living Center was my top pick, and then something with resources in a tagline felt encouraging to me.
Okay. Rick?
I really struggled with this almost for the opposite reasons that Lynn was mentioning. I thought that there were too many options. I thought that we hired a consultant to narrow things down for us so that we didn't have to spend a lot of time trying to figure out, for my less creative ability, what would be the best option for a title. I also hope that we might be able to actually engage some of our more creative people that are part of our community by having the art committee for the Oregon Village have their opportunity. I don't know what the timeline is on this decision is. I also think there's an opportunity potentially for, we're talking about putting together a committee that will be looking for donations and possibly having some input from a donor that might even be how much we would want to be willing to accept the idea of possibly getting even naming rights involved to be able to save money for the community. So I don't know if it's possible to take our suggestions and we have to make that decision tonight, but my own was the most probably boring one, which is the Oregon Community and Senior Center. And a lot of it having to do with some of the things that Tom was talking about. It is something that's readily identifiable. The last meeting that we had about this spark, I liked a single word. At the same time, though, I don't know if, because again, I'm not a branding consultant, but that I noticed that the Hilton is using that term right now very much so in marketing, and wouldn't want to use something that would then somehow look like it's confusing for other people to understand what's going on there. So that's why I settled back on the Oregon Community and Senior Center. And I do like the tagline that has to say something to do with wellness for every age, so that it does allow folks to be able to recognize that this isn't an exclusive senior center, just a community for people that feel like they're old enough to be able to be participating here, but that we have a diversity of people going there, because I think certainly as somebody that's getting to the point where I should be more than happy to be spending more of my time at the senior center, I would like to see people from all age groups and all backgrounds there to enrich my experience at the Oregon Community and Senior Center.
Okay. Looks like you, Amanda.
me.
Yeah.
All right, well, I guess I liked Spark too. I didn't know about this hotel thing, but I got to tell you, that was all my favorite. It's still kind of my favorite, even after looking at all of these. I didn't mind the ORE like in core for, highlighting the ORE, and that made sense if you had a tagline that it said, Oregon Community Senior Wellness or something along those lines, so people knew what it was. But I don't like forward for the same reasons that Lynn said. That E in there, I feel like that's confusing. I mean, I see what they tried to do, but that didn't resonate for me. I'll say that. Yeah, I mean, a lot of these maybe have potential, but we're kind of running out of time to discuss them. So, I guess I feel like it's important to have senior in there somewhere. I feel like it's important to also indicate somehow that it's for all ages, or, and I'm fine with wellness or any of these taglines that are presented that have those kinds of things in them. But I'm still landing on Spark. I know there's other branding, but I don't know how confusing that would be for people. I mean, it's on Park Street, which is really, I just like that the location is in it, and could be like Seniors on Park, Spark, or something along those lines. We could use it. Just my 2 cents. Where'd you land, Phil?
A couple of ideas. One was the Park Senior Center, kind of tying in the street and retaining the senior center element. And I'm going to fall back to the original one, and that is Compass, which I think is a safe, non-offensive, everyone. I just don't think people would object to it. But I will say this. What we decide on seems very important at the moment, but when the building's up and the sign's up and someone says, I'll meet you over at the Compass Center, or whatever name you might choose, no one's going to say, why don't you call it the Slushy, whatever center that place is called. Anyway, so that's where I'm at. So I think we should concentrate on the names for the moment and the taglines. So we have 2 people that spoken in favor of forward, and at least 2 spoke against it. I'm not sure how to proceed, since we don't even have anything near a consensus. Go ahead, Lynn.
I was under the impression that at some point we were going to narrow it down and then give it to the community. Was I mistaken on that?
Yeah, we need like 3 or.
So the process that was originally approved was that it would get narrowed down to 2 or 3
Okay.
logos, names, taglines, so it would be a complete idea, and that those would go out to the community ultimately to vote which one was their favorite. So the hope was that we'd be able to get into Ticey's hands 2 or 3 possibilities for them to work with, and that within, if you choose to pursue the next stage of development, that you would then have the opportunity to see, like, okay, here's some various logos for option 1. Do you like these? Do you like the color? Whatever. And so that you can offer some feedback and they can get them finalized, and then they would go out to be voted on by whoever in the public wants to vote on them. I would say that one of the, I think one of the challenges that everybody has felt is, how do you sort of marry together 2 different ideas? And one is the senior center kind of concept, and one is the community use of the active space. And One of the things, when Rick mentioned, when we had this conversation before, that he kind of liked the word Spark, because it was really easy to say, oh yeah, if you wanna find that, you gotta go down to the Spark building. It's a real easy reference. But it doesn't tell you much. It's just it's a random word. But what you can do is you can take that random word, you can take the building that has a name like the Hub, the Forum, the Odyssey, whatever it might be, and on one side of the building, you can have resources for aging well. And on the other side of the building, you can have where fit meets fun. Or something, where Oregon goes for fitness, whatever it might be, that is the tagline for that. And you can use those differently on written materials, printed materials, schedules, so that the youth basketball leagues can say the Spark, the Hub, the whatever, and it can say where fit meets fun. So you can take a neutral name, if you can agree on a neutral name that doesn't have any connotations that's gonna make somebody go, wait, what? And separate the two kinds of components of that building and use those components differently. Just a thought as you.
Oh, thank you, appreciate that. Rachel. Go ahead,
If I may?
please.
Just based on what people suggested, I feel like if the three were Oregon Community and Senior Center, something around the forward concept with the or highlighted, and something around the Spark Park, like those are the three core ideas that seem to have multiple areas of support for them.
Mhm.
That maybe we give that back to Tycee and say, let's develop these and then let's build something to take to the community. Would that work?
Everyone comfortable with that?
Amanda's frowning. What's up?
Well, how do I? Well, I mean, I've already said my concerns about the forward one, just, and with Lynn's concerns, forward, the word itself means like a preface or like before something written, and, I just feel like with forward, the state, I don't know that that's one of the options we want to land on to put out to the community. But the other ones I'm fine with.
Okay, well, we've had a couple of people speak in favor of the forward one. And to Tim's point, I think that we've talked, he's mentioned Oregon or Community Student Center, Forward Center, and the Spark Center. I know Amanda has some concerns. Others okay with proceeding with those three?
My only other concern, are we asking staff as well to pitch some ideas in?
I think they did already.
Okay, they already did.
There was a page near the end of the book that had any other community members' ideas or
Okay.
staff ideas, so.
Okay, I more wondered if we were using staff to narrow the options down for the community than to vote. Sorry, that's what I was.
Okay, so we have Oregon Community Senior Center, the Forward Center. Is that the complete phrase that was suggested, forward, or was there more to that? Just the Forward
There were
Center?
a couple of versions of that, weren't there?
Yeah. Well,
It's just showing us forward center here.
Forward Center, okay. And then the third one was Spark.
Spark or Park, however we were defining that.
Well,
Well, like, so Spark on Park, Spark,
yeah,
Senior on Park, let
okay,
them kind of play with.
okay,
That was an idea we
All
had
right.
that had some momentum.
okay. Now, as far as taglines, let's look at this from the sense of what key words we might want to have in this tagline, and then I think we let Tycee string it together. Is
I
that-
guess my only concern is if you don't put community and senior center in the name, so you can put it on the building, so
Yeah.
to speak, that then it has to be part of the tagline or somehow that's got that reference in it so we know who we're talking about.
Okay, is that general agreement there?
Yes.
Okay, so I think with the names we've looked at, the Forward and the Spark would both, of course, need to have that incorporated into the tagline. Rick, you?
And the add on to that, that the Oregon Community and Senior Center, if we were to use them, for lack of a better word, a more traditional name that actually kind of spells out a little bit more clearly what that place is, that's when I would want to probably have a tagline that's more about wellness for every age, or something that sort of broadens what the meaning of that building is, since it's so specific in the title. So sort of the opposite of what you were just saying about a single word title. You want to explain what that means in the tagline.
Okay. Other tagline suggestions or
I think we liked wellness.
wellness, yeah? One sorry?
Yeah.
Resources?
Resources,
Yeah, so an adult community wellness and resource center was the tagline that I liked.
Okay.
What page is that on?
Great question.
Okay, never mind.
Can you say it again, Paige?
Yeah, an adult community wellness and resource center.
Other,
Oh, top of the middle column.
okay, we have wellness and for every age, and we have resources. What was that complete page that, which one you just said?
Right here.
Adult Community Wellness and Resource Center. Yes, I must have liked it.
Or didn't.
It's my secret code. Okay, other, Lynn?
So again, going off of what Rachel just said, because I thought that was really well said about being able to like have potentially two taglines
Sure.
to sort of pivot to the two sides.
Mhm.
You know, something that, and again, I'm hesitant about this because I feel like a lot of just one words is a little, I don't know, kitschy or too shortcutty, but like the community movement purpose to be on the like gymnasium side,
Mhm.
I think, you know, we do think about it as like walking and basketball and things like that, but I would love it for it to feel like dance and cooking classes and birthday parties. You know, something that felt more community based instead of just like fully just activity or sports based.
So maybe just, we need the word community to be in,
Yeah, community to
Incorporated.
be on that side of the
yeah. Okay,
walkway.
other phrases or words? Go ahead.
I like the idea of fitness, wellness, moving, those kinds of things.
Mhm.
Yeah, movement. I'm struggling with the community being in everything that we've talked about, because I gotta be honest with you, this is not a community center. This is a senior center. That is how we designed it. And by putting community in it with a center, it implies that it's, I don't know, it would just have been, I think, a different design. We designed this as a senior center. Yes, there's a gymnasium and we want people to come use it. I don't want to discourage that, and we need to convey that. But this is not a community center. It's a senior center with a community gymnasium kind of thing is how I'm envisioning this. And so I'm struggling with how to convey that without misrepresenting what it is.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, but I also think that's a challenge of all marketing. You know, I
Yes.
mean, I was in Bad Art Company the other night, and they have a sign out front that says, "Yes, we're a bar," because people don't know they're a bar, you know? And
Right.
you kind of have to just keep taking your message to the community over and over and over again. And the rule of thumb I always learned in marketing was when you're sick of your message, it's just starting to break into people's consciousness. So we're gonna have to tell people what the space is.
Okay, so we have wellness and for every age and resources, and adult, community wellness, resource, and the word community. What else might we want to have in there? Movement. Yeah,
Something related.
something like that, yeah. Go ahead, Lynn, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I just want to speak to what Amanda you just said because I agree with you. I think that's why having two different taglines can be really helpful. And
Sure.
I do believe that one of those taglines should have senior in it because we've heard from lots of people in the community that that is a word that they want. And so I don't think we should abandon that, but I do also think that we should utilize the fact that we can do two taglines to use another tagline that feels more all encompassing. If only just for the sense that when you're walking through the door, you're not like, oh, am I in the wrong place, right? Like, oh,
Yeah.
should I turn around because I'm not a senior? I think it's just sort of helpful to have, to bridge both sides with the two taglines.
Okay,
Can I just respond?
please.
I agree with that, but that's part of, I'm looking at the bigger names that we talked about and seeing Oregon Community and Senior Center is one of the ones we picked. I don't know that I agree with that one. If anything, it should be Oregon Senior and Community Center. Senior should come first because that's what this is. I think that makes it clearer if we're gonna do that, but again, you know, maybe just Oregon Senior Center. People have known it like that for years. Is it terrible to stick with the same name? I don't know. Just throwing it out there.
Okay, other thoughts, taglines, messages? Tom?
Yeah, I just have to react to just calling it just the senior center. If there's anything that creates a barrier for anybody to come to this, I'm for removing that barrier. And so that's why we include the word community in our discussions. And you can use some other inclusive name other than community. It's the one that's been coming up regularly. And I don't know if you know, Oregon Gymnasium and Senior Center is fine too. I think the point though is that I've got to give somebody that out to say, oh, I'm a senior, I can't go to that. Like, no, you can go because it's this too. And we've got to make sure it has that, because we want to have this.
It's not just for seniors anymore.
Yeah, there's a tagline, right? Yeah, not just for seniors anyway. Okay, other keywords or phrases for the tagline?
So was that a tagline, Amanda? It's not just for seniors anymore?
Sure.
Yeah.
The new and improved Oregon Senior Center. Right? Not just for not your grandparents' senior center.
Okay, any others that we want to pass along? Rick?
I guess since I was in favor of the Oregon Community and Senior Center, I'm certainly open to the idea of either switching the word to be second, you know, community switching with senior, or making it Oregon Senior and Wellness Center, or something else that doesn't say community. I'm just trying to go more with something that readily identifies it as what it is in the title. And then having another option that's more one-worded,
Yeah.
or that doesn't necessarily.
Yeah, I'm on board with that, with the Oregon Senior Community Center or something like that, so the word seniors first.
Senior Wellness Center, I like that.
Yeah,
So what is it for Tyce's work? Is it the Oregon Senior and Community Center, or is it the Oregon Senior and Wellness Center?
which one?
Do we need a SWOT analysis?
I like community.
So, I think community is good.
I can live with community.
I think communities,
Yeah, I agree. I think Paige had an interesting observation. Like, we want to make sure it doesn't seem like a spa or sort
right,
of like
that's
a.
that's right where I went.
Some of those days. I mean,
Right.
just of course.
Yeah,
Some of those days sounded like a spa.
okay,
We got foot care.
That's true. Okay.
last call for taglines. Any others? Okay.
So let me make sure.
Please no request.
Let me make sure I understand what we're asking Tyce to do.
Yes.
We're asking them to work with 3 names, one of which is Oregon Senior and Community Center, one of which is Forward Center with the E. And yes, it's the beginning of something, and that's okay, because they're at the beginning of the rest of their lives, just like we all are every day.
All right.
Well done.
And
That's actually a good tagline.
every day is another beginning, yep. And then the third one is some variation on Spark or Park with the S, that's, okay. So those are the 3 names we're asking them to work with, and then the taglines. One of them was Wellness for Every Age.
Mhm.
One of them was an Adult Community Wellness and Resource Center.
Mhm.
And was there an additional one that somehow I didn't capture?
That's all I got.
Yeah, that's it. Just those 2.
All right.
Okay.
Do you need more? Like, I do like your idea, like, and Lynn, and I've heard what you said too about having multiple taglines. I'm very open to that idea. I think that's clever and can kind of indicate the uses of the various parts of the building in a way.
So if you take Forward Center or you take Spark and do something with it, do you want them to pursue different taglines based on 2 different kinds? And do you have a feel at all for what those taglines should be? How do you feel about fit and fun? How do you feel about Oregon's wellness core? Or, I mean, do you have anything that makes you go, oh yeah, that's from those various lists? Engage, energize, move, or where Oregon moves. I mean, is there anything, or you just want them to sort of go out?
I think the main thing we wanted was that if the name isn't Oregon Senior Center, that then the tagline very specifically calls out that it's the senior center.
Right.
You know, if you use one of the other 2, that they have to make sure they include that.
But you're willing to try 2 taglines?
Sure. I probably want 2 taglines.
Yes.
Okay, got it.
Right.
Thank you.
Does that give what you need?
Yes, thank you.
Great. Okay. Thank you all. Let's see, 8C, Resolution 26-03, preliminary resolution declaring intent to exercise special assessment powers for public sidewalk construction, benefiting properties located on East Lincoln Street, North Main Street, North Oak Street, and Soden Drive, sorry, I say Soden, related to the 2026 East Lincoln Street reconstruction project. Staff recommendation, motion to approve. Paige and Tim. Yeah. There was that usual great memo in the packet. Anything to add there? Lauren? Any questions for Lauren? No? Hearing none? Okay, we have a motion by Kniffer, a second by Higgins. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carried. Item 9, new business, none. Item 10, reports of village officers, department heads, and consultants. This is for information only. In your packet, the village administrator report. Lynn?
I just wanted to make a comment. As I was reviewing this, Martin, I noticed how many other municipalities you're spending your time talking to, and I just want to really thank you for that. I think we don't live in a time where we can be siloed and isolated, and it makes me really proud to look at the administrator report and see all the conversations that we're having with our neighbors and our partners. Whether or not they come to fruition, I think it's just nice that we are setting the bar really high, that we're willing to have really creative conversations, and it stood out to me, so I appreciate that.
Anything else for the administrators? No? Okay, 10B, the police chief report. Anything you want to add, chief? Okay.
Can I ask a question about it?
Yeah.
If I can answer, I will.
Okay. In the release from the school, they referenced that the teacher involved in the first incident, they didn't talk about the second incident. You told us about the second incident. But they said the teacher in the first incident had been put on administrative leave and subsequently resigned. Have they reported anything on what's going on with the other teacher in the other incident? Are they still teaching?
It's best that I don't provide an answer because it's an active investigation.
Okay.
But
Right.
just, what I can say is that we are working very hard to get the answers that our community is looking for.
And I appreciate that you're doing that. And I wish you'd been involved earlier. As I suppose you do.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. 10C is Director of Public Works Report, which is in the packet. It has the final decision of the Public Service Commission of Wisconsin regarding the water rate case. Anything you want to?
The one thing that I will clarify, because it took me 3 or 4 times of reading through this to make sure that I kind of knew what the answer to this question was, is that step 1, the authorized overall increase, is just above 25. It's 25.04%. And step 2 will take the overall authorized increase up to 39.76%. So they do break down by different users and average users and what section is paid for by public fire protection, but those are kind of your top line rates. The one thing to be aware of as this moves forward, because you guys might get questions on this, is the way that the PSC has structured this is a 2-step rate case. And just as a reminder, what that likely means is that in a couple of months, customers will see an increase for step 1. And based on our project schedules for wells 3 and 6, in about 2 months after that, they will see an additional increase. Unfortunately, we were not given a choice on that, even though the timing works out that it probably would have been doable to do it in one. That is what the PSC asked that we do. So we will communicate all of that to our customers, get the word out, and make sure we do as much as we can to tell them why this is happening, but just be aware that they will see that kind of 2-step up over probably 2 to 3 months.
Okay, thank you for that question.
Yeah, that was just my question, was when is the first increase? You said a couple of months from now?
Yeah, I think we're targeting implementing it for the April bill. So they will see it, we will get it into our system at the end of March, and they will see it at the end of April when they get billed for that month's water use, probably early May.
And they'll continue to get the cleanest water in Dane County.
Absolutely, as Don would say, the water's fine, the water's great.
Come on. Okay.
Anybody else? Thank you, Amanda. Anybody else? Okay. And let's see, 11, announcements and miscellaneous business. Announcements, comments, communications, upcoming meetings and events. Miscellaneous business. Start with department head, staff. Chief.
I apologize, I have a cold coming on. There will be another press release going out tonight. It will be in the March packet, but just wanted to let you know we are in the news again. Secondly, we are starting to get reports of children playing out on the ice for these retention ponds. Super scary stuff. Just some background real quick. Lauren did a phenomenal job of providing some helpful information to the police department and then fire EMS for how deep each pond typically is. They're a lot deeper than I thought. So with this information about, it's warmer out, water's melting faster, the last thing we want is one of these little ones breaking through. So our officers are out there watching. Anytime we take a report, the worst, obviously there's the worst case scenario, but then there's also these reports where we'll be called out there. It's not further witnessed. They just see the kids playing on the ice. We have to assume the worst. So then we can use tools we have, like the drone, and EMS has equipment as well to actually get in and make sure. But I did put something on our Facebook. I'm asking community to share it, so I know some of you are frequent on ours, if you wouldn't mind sharing it. I've also informed Oregon Fire EMS that we're seeing the uptick in this. so they can just be prepared. They do training all the time on it. And we have tools in our squads to throw out to help save somebody that might be out there. And then because the school district has a much larger platform for our children, I've asked them to consider putting something out as well. I just wanted to put that in front of you.
Go ahead.
And then I have something too. So tomorrow is the countywide primary. So tomorrow the polls are open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. And if voters have any questions, myvote.wi.gov is the best resource.
Okay. Any other staff? No? Tom?
Just a reminder, we are in the submission phase of the administrator's review. I have not exactly been flooded with responses yet. There's still time to get your appraisal in and your evaluation information in. We did say it was voluntary this year, but it is a valuable thing to receive those comments. And I think it's a valuable thing for Martin to hear those comments. So if you have not yet completed your evaluation document and wish to do so, we're looking forward to receiving it.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Ben?
Sustainability is this Wednesday at 5:15. Although if you got here at 5, you'd be 15 minutes early, so it'd be fine. We just recently made that change, so we just didn't communicate it in time. Totally my fault, but it'll be 5:15 on Wednesday.
Okay. And we also have retirement of Senior Center Case Manager Carol Bausch for plan for July 3rd, 2026, after 14 years of service to the Village of Oregon. Anthony?
Well, Carol's been a wonderful employee. The senior center's been blessed with a very stable staff for a very long time. And sometimes when you get people who are all of similar ages, you eventually pay the price and serve at the same time. But we'll be back in the process. We're all warmed up from having hired an assistant director recently, so we'll be back in the process again. But just our thanks go out to Carol for all of her years of service.
Yes, the community thanks her. Go ahead.
Can I just say I appreciate her sense of timing to retire and then go to Independence Day. Brilliant.
Very good, very good. Okay, 11B, future agenda items. This item gives village board members the opportunity to place a topic on a future agenda for discussion. Any? Hearing none. Item 12 is our business is conducted without objection. We are adjourned. Thank you all very much.